Welcome to Stacy on the Right. This is our StreamYard stream-enabled production where we are doing some video chats for the podcast and also so that you can kind of meet the guests and see them in person. And this is so exciting because I get to a place where I want to be looking in the face of the person that I'm interviewing, and this gives us the capability to do that. So I'm really excited to have our next guest. We have Missy Robertson. She is from A&E's Duck Dynasty, and her book is Because You're My Family. She is such a wonderful contributor to the space of not just writing, but the relationships and the faith walk that we all are striving to be on and to do well. So welcome to Stacy on the Right, Missy.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk about it. Why did you write this book? Who's your audience and what were you trying to say here?
Well, the audience, I would say, was written for children ages 4 to 10. But after talking with so many adults about this book, it's really something for all of us. So whenever you're reading it to your child, you're going to learn a lot too and be reminded about what unconditional love truly looks like between family members. So that's who the audience is for. The illustrations are amazing, which I cannot take any credit for at all, but they are beautiful and help tell the story as well.
So because you're my family, the first thing I think of with that is, because you're my family, I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to forget. I'm going to move on from this or that.
Mm-hmm.
Does the book cover any of those themes?
Yeah, so the story is about little Valor, who is a tiger, and he was also adopted by lion parents. So that's in another book of this series. But he wakes up thinking he's going to play for the day. They'd already made plans to play. But his mother tells him he's got a chore that he has to do instead or first. And he's just not very happy about that. And so she sends him out to pick carrots because they're going to make a carrot cake for someone down the street that's sick. And so he just doesn't have a very good attitude about it. He pouts about it and he ends up going and doing it. But then the madder he gets, the longer the day goes on, he ends up dumping all those carrots into a ditch and then starts to regret what he did because he thought, I'm going to get in trouble. So he runs and he hides. And the book shows that the parents go looking for him. It starts to rain. They get extremely concerned about his safety, and they end up saving him from a flowing river and bring him in, warm him up by the fire, and get him all good again. And the little conversation that takes place is Valor saying, why did you come rescue me when all I did was pout and disobey you today? Why did you save me? And the father says, I will always love you for one reason, because you're my son. Nothing will ever change that no matter what you do. Now, there will be consequences for your behavior. You have to apologize and you have to go do your chore. But don't ever doubt my love for you because it will never change. That's the essence of the book.
I love that. So that's a good message for us as adults as well, because
Yes.
when we are thinking about our own lives and our own failures, the struggles that we have, we'll often be in a situation where we feel unlovable or we feel like, how can God possibly continue to work with me? I'm still struggling with this thing. I'm still in the same place. I'm still basically like the Israelites going around this same little teensy weensy space for 40 years. I've been here for this many years, and we're very hard on ourselves. And God is actually not hard on us. He knows our frame. He knows our difficulties. And he really wants to give us an opportunity to understand that he's walking with us and that we will eventually conquer the battle that we're in. We will eventually come on the other side. So this is a good one when I assume you're reading this to your child or your grandchild, and you can get a lot from it yourself.
Yes, we do. We all have flaws. We all still mess up. Just because we're adults doesn't mean that we've gotten past this point in our lives where we don't need to ask for forgiveness. Even as adults, when we disappoint Jesus, when we disappoint the Father God, we want to hide because we're ashamed. A lot of times, people will do that and they'll drink away their problems, or they'll use other substances, or they'll just kind of just ball up inside. Look what we all did during COVID and the depression that all of that, was accompanying. So, but what we need to learn, what we can learn through this simple message of this little children's book is that God is always there. He never left. Once you become a child of his, there's nothing you can do to change that. He is going to be there, and his love, his arms are never ending, and his love is never ending. So if we can really remember and think about the relationship that our father here on earth and a mother, me as a parent, has with my own children and the love that I have for my own child, it's easier to understand the Father's love. He set it up that way. He set up the nucleus of the family so that we can understand a little bit more about his love for us, him sacrificing his son for us because we're his family.
Yeah, we are. But he's also left us some space to take care of each other. And you mentioned COVID, Missy, and how lonely it was. And I think there were some really beautiful moments that happened all over the country that never made it to the Today Show, where people were taking care of each other. People were really doing the kind of thing that we're supposed to do, hands and feet of Jesus Christ, reaching out, caring for each other. But there were others who really experienced a level of loneliness that they never thought they might. And we saw an uptick in suicide, and we saw, some negative outcomes in mortality from that. And so, as Christians, we're supposed to have the joy of the Spirit. We're supposed to be, even in the worst of times, we're supposed to have that certain something, that quality that comes from knowing Jesus Christ, that we can then exude out to other people, because it gives them hope as well. We're supposed to have that hope because we know the end of the story. We know how this thing all works out. No matter the circumstances, we're able to have joy. How would you say, like, if you're thinking through that whole COVID experience, and knowing that, this isn't our last pandemic, we may have to experience something like this again. How would you encourage Christians to better walk that out? Because I know that I feel like we did a good job in some areas, but that there are still deficiencies. We really need to get better at doing that, especially in preparation for whatever is to come.
Personally, I hated to see the ones around me buy into the fear that was being generated. Not that it wasn't a real disease and real sickness. And there were some aspects of that were very scary. But there's so much that I saw on the media, not around here. I would say in the South, we lived a very different COVID life than what the media portrayed that everyone was going through.
Oh, it
and
was
again,
so
an amen. Okay. Yes. So, because, we knew that there was COVID going on, but we weren't living in fear at all. And I know it's real. My grandmother passed away because of it. And she was 92. And she had so many chances at death before that. And we talk about her, she overcame so many things. And we're like, really? This is what got her, But her last words were, "Let me go." She knew where she was going. And I miss her, but I know that I'm going to see her again. And so that's the fear that I wish that we would not live our lives by. We have hope. If you're in Jesus, you have hope. This COVID is not going to end our life in terms of our spiritual life and even our physical life. If you're in Jesus, we're going to live forever. We don't need to be stupid about it. We can take precautions, but the fear that enabled so many people to just shut down, I guess, with their lives was so sad to me. And I say, for hope, I hope that they don't do that. I wish that they would not do that. Learn about Jesus, learn about the Father's love, get in the Word more and read and understand that a lot of this truth is my truth and your truth and their truth. And what we have no idea what the truth is if you turn on the TV. There is no way that we can decipher what truth is. But I do know what truth is from the Lord's point of view. And that should be the only point of view that matters, is his truth. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one can go through the Father except through him. If you have Jesus, you have everything. Sickness, health, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. Freedom or slavery. If you have Jesus, you will live forever.
So I love that, Missy, because so if you were living free during COVID, I'll just put it this way, because I don't want to, I'm not into making people feel bad for the way that they reacted to COVID, but there were missed opportunities for people who really bought into the fear that if you watched too much cable news, you were so afraid that the only option was to stay home, to utilize Amazon and, all the delivery services, and to really just check out of life for a while and to wait for things to get back to normal. And what I'm seeing now is a lot of people, they don't really want things to go back to normal. They're fine with living in fear. And for others like yourself and myself, I was in Bible study. We only stayed home for about 3 weeks. Our church was closed. So we were only going out to like go to the store and come home. And then I got invited to, I kind of basically, I shoehorned my way in, Missy. It was a lady I knew. And my friend was like, we're going to Bible study at this lady's house. Have you ever? And I said, I know her. We had lunch like a year ago. I was like, can I come? So
Yeah.
I showed up to Bible study, and it's at her house. She has a backyard covered patio thing. And so we're sitting out there, and it's COVID, right? So we don't have on masks because we're outside. We have our Bibles out, and we start studying the word. We start off with praise and worship. We start studying the word. And so after that, we're all breaking up to leave, and, people started looking around. I was like, well, is this like every week or what's happening? And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to be back here next week on Wednesday. So I, in my mind, made up right then and there, I would be back. And so we just kept on meeting. And the COVID, the original COVID went down, and then the Delta came and we kept meeting, and then it went down, and then the Omicron came and we were still meeting. And so, now we're 2 years in, and I'll sometimes bump into someone and they'll say, oh, it's just so good to be back out, because we were home for 18 months. I didn't see anybody for 18 months. I'm like, what?
Wow.
How could you? I wouldn't wither away because I'm married, and we have the little fat dog you saw rolling around there. I wouldn't have withered away, but I certainly would have experienced negative outcomes within myself if I hadn't been able to get among a community of believers and pray and worship and just seeing people, just sitting down to eat together. I kind of need that. And I think that God really, he was like, okay, I know how you are built. You're going to need to get into this. And so I was in the Bible study, and I also had lunch, and we still did book club, and we still had people over, and we were like, okay, it's a pandemic, but Psalm 91 says that I will only a observer be to the reward of the wicked. Now, is the pandemic the reward of the wicked? I don't know. All I know is I don't have to participate. I can be wise and take care of myself and my family, but I do not have to cower in my home in fear. And I think in preparation for the next pandemic, what you said about reading your word, getting to know Jesus, we really have to encourage everyone around us to do that, so that the next go round, when this comes back around, man-made, brought from China, wherever it's coming from, that we'll be ready to keep living. Because, we were given this life to live it abundantly. We are supposed to eat, drink, and be merry. We're supposed to work as hard as we can, because this is our audition time. And you mentioned eternity. We're going to be in eternity for a really long time. And there's not going to be any quarantine there. There's not going to be any, no pandemics. We get the creative bodies, no belly buttons. It's going to be awesome. No, we'll eat for fun. We won't need to sleep. And apparently there's going to be some kind of other dimensional quality to us, which I'm assuming means we won't have to take planes to get places. So I'm ready. I'm like, that's for me. That's the thing that I'm looking forward to. So I can't be cowering in fear here in preparation for that life. I have to be out of control, courageous here in preparation for that life, which is to come. So I hope that people will take your words to heart. And certainly we'll put a link to the book in the show notes. You Robertsons are cranking out a lot of books over there.
I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome, but y'all are busy.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully doing the will of the Lord. Stephanie walking in his light for sure. Trying to.
I love the book that Phil wrote. I love it. And so I can't wait to see yours. I'm going to get a copy so I can have my own copy so I can look at and also share with other people. But God bless you. Thank you for the courageous example, because I think never before have we ever needed it so badly, for people to just look up and see somebody that looks and sounds like themselves and say, okay, she's still living. Okay. Uncle Phil Robertson is still living. I gotta keep living too. We need that example out there. People of faith, I feel like almost more than anybody else, we really need to know that God is for us, and we need to live like he's for us.
Absolutely.
Well, Missy Robertson, thank you for writing the book. Thank you for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you. God bless.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.